The recipe method for guesstimating.
Boom.
Let's dive in. So, what is it? Well, it's when you use a recipe either you have, or maybe your friend has, or maybe you have found to help in your guesstimation of a food that you're going to eat that has no nutrition facts.
Yep. So you don't have to have the recipe to start, but you
This
can find one.
this is true. Yeah. So let's talk about a couple helpful scenarios. Well, for instance, dinner at a friend's house. So maybe your friend is making dinner, and it's not like a barbecue where it's like, oh, here's protein and veggies. Maybe it's like a lasagna or a marry me chicken. I don't know if some of you heard about that.
Yep.
But they're making a recipe, whether they want to give it to you or not, but they have something that you can eat.
Yep. You're lucky enough to have a friend that still cooks and
Yeah.
you're not going over to Uber Eats or have Domino's.
Yes. Another scenario is cultural dishes. And so there are so many cultural restaurants out there. So places like Indian food, Thai food, Ethiopian, Jamaican, but they don't typically have chain restaurants, which means they don't typically have nutrition facts.
Yeah. And this is typically when people are like, oh, like little mom and pop shop or something favorite that they have. And typically it's a cultural style dish,
Yep.
right? Because sometimes the different cultures don't have large chain restaurants.
Yep. Another one is crazy dishes. So we're not going to go over in this particular lesson, but crazy dishes are great because basically what you do is you create your own recipe for an entire dish, like a crazy thing. We have this thing called the Sunday dinner, so that you can know the calories for the entire dish and then say, I ate one serving of this particular dish.
Yeah, or even like you've seen probably some of the sweets that we've had where it's like, oh, a brownie with a donut inside and a cookie on top. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, you can break it all down and then rebuild it.
Yep.
But later.
Yeah, so this is kind of where the like single ingredient method meets recipe method slash combination method comes into play.
Yep.
So let's talk about dinner at a friend's house using the recipe method. Well, first thing, ask what they're having. Sometimes like people are super excited to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to make you this dish. Depending on if you're guesstimating it ahead of time or if you're reserving a particular amount of calories afterwards. But like, say, hey, like, I'm super excited to come over and visit with you. Like, what are we doing for food? Do you need me to bring anything? Those types of talks. Or you can reserve a particular amount of calories, right? For when you are going out, because especially it's like, oh, if I'm going over, I don't want to ask, or I have no idea, or maybe they don't even know what they're cooking until the day of, who knows? So plan to eat X amount of calories.
But just think about it, like realistically asking ahead of time isn't weird. So like feel free, ask. But I know every once in a while, sometimes it can be a little bit weird, especially if you've never done it before. And like she said, every once in a while, I'm sure you'll have a friend that's like, I don't know, I'm just going to whip something up. So you can ask and you may not get an answer, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah. And then you can even ask, like, if you did ask ahead of time, or if maybe you didn't ask ahead of time and it was like some particular recipe that they're like, oh, I made my mom's like lasagna and like this is the exact recipe. Then they can share it with you, or you just Google search it for what you are going to eat or what you did eat. So
it's like, oh, this was great. Where'd you get the recipe? Or can I have it? Would you share it with me? Like
exactly. So there's this thing, I have not had it yet, and he just learned about it from me.
Yep.
It's called Marry Me Chicken. Apparently it's
better than sex. Oh no, that's
the next cake.
Oh,
There's
okay,
also
sorry.
a cake called Better Than Sex. So
that's when you marry me.
I mean, I married you because there we go. You never know.
Full circle.
Hey. But anyways, let's talk about the basically the steps for using the recipe method. So first thing is you want to search Google search. So Google, I like Google. Use whatever search engine you prefer.
Yahoo.
You're going to search for a couple different versions of it. You'll compare the calories, and then you'll compare the servings and the tray. Then you're just going to pick something, typically, the middle of the road option, or you can lean towards the higher caloried option. And then also like visualize or ask yourself, like, how much did I eat? How much will I eat? Those types of things. So let's talk about the Marry Me chicken. This is what it looks like. It looks It looks like I'd want to marry you.
Kind of looks like the marsala.
It does kind of look like
Yeah.
it, but I think it's like cream cheese or something based. So that's marsala is more, I don't know, it's not cream cheese.
There you go.
But anyways, so you can either search just the name, so like Marry Me Chicken, because it's very random. Or you can include like Marry Me Chicken nutrition facts or Marry Me Chicken recipe or whatever. And then you're going to pick a couple options. So typically the ones that are at the top are either sponsored or they're higher ranking or they're known trusted sources. Obviously, your friend, unless they're like, oh, I'm going to create this macro-friendly version, you're not looking for macro-friendly things. It's probably going to be full of butter, full of full-fat cream cheese. Who knows? Ask. You never know.
Yep. And sometimes it actually makes it easier in the search because you're not looking for some specialty recipe.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, what's the classic recipe for this? Because most likely that's what your friend's doing.
Yeah. And then you're going to compare the calories. So like, pick 3 different options and see what populates. So I got 3 different options here from 3 different websites. A couple that I had known, one I hadn't known. And they're all looking around. So we got 530 on the calories, 566, and then we also have like 419. So like that might be a little bit lighter.
And this is why like pulling up a few will help because you'll be able to say like, all right, like what's kind of the average or where are we sitting? Because you may get one that is like a low calorie or the one that's really high or one that's really low.
Yep.
And by picking a few, it allows you to kind of remove those outliers. Like, all right, what's the average? What's probably the most realistic?
Yeah. And then you want to compare the serving sizes because obviously you want to make sure that you're comparing the calories to the same serving size or something similar.
You don't want to be like one of those memes like my coach said I could have 1 slice of pizza.
Yeah, it's the size of your head or whatever.
Yeah.
And so all of these, each does 4 servings. And so if you also look at the ingredients, you can see that the one on the left, the Taming Me Twins, is about 650 grams of chicken breasts, but it says about 4 chicken breasts. And then the one on the top right is 8 ounces, which is about 4 chicken breasts. So 4 8-ounce chicken breasts, sorry. So there you go. And then the bottom one is 4 about 2 pounds. But basically 4 chicken breasts, they're all coming in at around 1.5 to 2 pounds.
There you go. So common theme there about a chicken breast.
Yep, exactly. So what you do, typically choose the middle to the higher calorie option. And then you'll choose it and you'll input it into your nutrition tracker. And so you can either utilize some of these recipes will have the nutrition facts listed. If they do, you can just use those. Make sure you double check them because I will tell you sometimes there's some wonky ones. Or you can copy and paste like the website of that recipe and then put it into the nutrition tracker and it'll create like the ingredients and the recipe and it'll spit out the macronutrients for you as well. So either you can do that, you can do a food entry, or you can just do a quick add. Obviously, it depends on the nutrition tracker that you are utilizing. That was the create a recipe in your nutrition tracker portion that I just talked about. But once you've done that, then say, this is the amount of servings I'm going to eat. Am I going to eat a whole chicken breast? Am I going to eat more than that? Am I going to eat less than that? And then input it.
Yep. And if
now you know.
And if you're someone that like is doing it kind of after the fact, you can kind of go back and see like, all right, I ate about this much to kind of dial in what it is that you tracked. Because if you set aside a certain amount of calories and afterwards you go, oh, like this is what it was, this is the recipe, and then see where you're actually sitting.
Yep. Another option is searching your nutrition tracker.
Yep. Use it like Google.
Yeah, exactly. It is literally like
engine.
Google for sure. And so you search your nutrition tracker for options and you just see what populates. And then you can check to see if there's macros listed or if there's just calories listed. And so for instance, this is searching Nutrition X. And so when I search Marry Me Chicken and Nutrition X, there wasn't very much that populated. There was literally one item that populated. And it says macro foods. So my instant thought was like, oh, I don't know. Is this going to be macro friendly? But not all meal prep companies will say are macro friendly.
Well, yeah, just because you have the macros of food doesn't make them friendly.
Exactly. Exactly. But ironically, you can see like, oh, it's very similar in calories for one of their meals. And the cool part about Nutrition X is if you click on the information and you're like, okay, like let me click on it, you can see this is what pulls up. So it's like Marry Me Chicken macro foods. One meal is around 326 grams, 570 calories. And then if you were to click on the name like macro foods, you could actually like go to their website if you wanted to be like, what does that even look like?
Learn a little bit more.
Yeah. So this is what their Marry Me Chicken looks like. And the other cool part that I discovered just by like clicking around, was that they had different portion sizes and along with the calories and macros for the different portion sizes, which once again, like, hey, that's super helpful in knowing. And if you're really good at like, oh, this was probably about X amount of chicken, like you could, if you wanted to, utilize this information to guesstimate what you ate at your friend's house or will eat at your friend's house.
Yep.
Another one was MyFitnessPal search. And so this one came up a little bit more, but with nutrition facts or trackers, the thing to know is that like people input their own things, right? And so this is where you want to find like what's the common theme of calories. So we have a couple different ones here. That macro foods that we found in Nutrition X also populates in MyFitnessPal. And then there's the website. This one says The Spruce Eats. So I recognize that name because it's a chick who makes all of these like delicious looking recipes, obviously including Marry Me Chicken. And just for shits and giggles, I went to the website to be like, all right, like what does hers look like? I'm just curious. So I went there. Hey, 4 chicken breasts. Once again, another theme. 1 to 1.5 pounds. Very similar theme as the previous ones. Ironically, and this is where I was telling you before, is this is 4 servings, but on her website, it says that it's 477 calories versus 580 that's listed in MyFitnessPal. And so once again, it's just kind of like, all right, let me look to see, let me check my facts just a little bit and then decide what it is that you want to utilize for your guesstimation.
Yep. And there is no right or wrong. The reality is like, be educated, go in, do your homework. You don't necessarily have to dive this deep into every recipe that you
No.
do, but the more that you do this, the more information you'll kind of have in your knowledge bank. So it'll make it easier and easier. Just like she says, like, oh, like I recognize that name because of past homework. So like the more you do this, like the easier get or the better you'll get at it because you'll have more reps or time experience, all those things. And you could use all that information to pull together to make different decisions moving forward.
Yep. But basically, to be on the safe side, save about 550 to 650 calories, right? For that one chicken breast with sauce, because that seems to be the common theme.
Yep.
But we'll dive into more examples in our following lessons.